So thank you to everyone for staying on the line and listening to the last company. And hopefully between us, the three of us, we're going to make a good introduction to Incanthera for you. So as you can see on the very first slide, Incanthera is all about oncology. And if you look at the main heading there, novel cancer medicines through targeted technology, we will go through that in a little bit more detail. But in a nutshell, what we're looking at is a new approach to treating cancer, which means more effective direct treatment to the cancer tumors without the usual side effects. And that is very much in a nutshell, which I'm sure Simon will expand upon in a few more slides. So if we go through the next, that's right. Thank you, Simon. So let's just take you back to where we started. So the company heritage, we were born out of the University of Bradford, and more specifically on the university campus is a unit called the Institute of Cancer Therapeutics. Now, this is a dedicated research unit which is staffed by about 50 people, right from professor level all the way down to PhD. And their objective in life is to do groundbreaking research into new areas of approaching oncology treatment. And they got to a point a few years ago, about 10 years ago now, actually, which they, as we say in the industry, they reached a point where they needed to throw their research over the fence and get it into commercial development. And at the time, Simon was an advisor and consultant, and the university approached him to see whether or not he could help to commercialize some of their great work. And to cut a long story short, out of that came a spin out, which became Incanthera. And if you look at Institute of Cancer Therapeutics and squash that up, you get Incanthera. So that's where the name comes from. And it's a really, really impressive facility. It's over about, well, not about, it's four floors, a big building with some extremely groundbreaking technology going on there. And the clever thing that Simon did, if I can embarrass him for one moment, at the time when he put the company together, was to say to university, I'm more than happy to spin this out and lead it as a CEO. However, with a company like this, we need to have a continuing source of new product opportunities. And with that, he entered into a pipeline deal with the university whereby we get first look at everything that the university is doing in our area of oncology. And through that deal, we have taken 3 products into the portfolio, including the first one, which established the company, and 2 further than that. And we've continued to build the portfolio, through other acquisitions from outside the university as well. So you'll see in a few slides that the portfolio laid out, and it is really important for a company like ours to have a multi-asset portfolio. Now, the strapline on the bottom, which is now, sorry, at the bottom of the slide, which is now on this slide in more detail, is acquire, prepare, commercialize, and that runs through the whole presentation. And what do we mean by that? What do we mean is that we are firstly identifying those technologies or intellectual property which fit with our ethos and also our business model. We acquire the intellectual property rights to those products, and we acquire them in total. We don't license them in, we own them 100%. And we prepare them, and that's a word which we use. You may recognize it in other guys to say we take through clinical development, or we do some development in one sort or another on them. But we only take them as far as we need to before we can commercialize them with a partner. And there is a point of differentiation, I would say, between companies very similar to us in the industry. And that is, we're not looking to hold on to our products any longer than we need to. We're very aware that the clinical development process is a risk business. It takes an awful lot of money to take drugs from start to finish. That's not our objective at all. Our objective is to, yes, build a multi-asset portfolio, but it's a portfolio of revenue-generating licenses and deals. It's not a point where we need to hold on to these assets any longer than we need to. So in the prepare part of this slide, we are only investing as much as we need to in order to attract a partner. And through that partnership, we are starting to generate revenues. We've already proven that business model, that we've got a first deal on the table. In fact, we licensed out the first product when it's still in preclinical development. And I'm sure that those of you that are familiar with this industry will understand that that's quite an achievement to get something out at that early stage. So if we just move on, Simon, thank you. So here's the team. You've got three of us here this evening, myself as chairman, Simon CEO, and Suzanne as our head of communications and company secretary. I'm not going to go through the slide, but as you would expect, we all contribute as part of the team at different levels of skills, experience, training, etc., and we all bring something to the party. But the one thing that I would like to bring out of this slide is what you see on there is everything and everyone. Our business model is very much a virtual business model, so we don't need to build lots of overheads. We don't even have an office. Before COVID hit, we had a small office in Manchester, which housed a couple of people. I think Simon was there most days, along with Pavel. But apart from that, we don't need to have any infrastructure. We don't need to invest or take investors' money, invest in that sort of thing. Now we are fully virtual as a nature of our business model, but also clearly the pandemic, which we've had in the last year, 18 months. So all of our monies that we raise at any particular time is absolutely going into the development of products, which, as we say, we move through as quickly as possible to get to an early point of revenue generation. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Suzanne to go through what was a really exciting year for us, and I'm not going to steal her slide here. So Suzanne, I'll hand over to you to present this.
Thank you very much, Tim. Hi, everybody. So we wanted to put this slide really together to show the great news flow and the great journey that we've had in our flotation since the end of February 2020. So we came to market on the 28th of February 2020, which was really just before the world sort of seemed to go into what we've now come through in the last year as the pandemic. But we're very lucky to get the successful flotation that we did. And we immediately got to work. And I think Tim's what he just mentioned in the slide before about the sort of lean team, we got to work very quickly in doing what we said we would do at the Float, which is developing and refining the technology surrounding Sol. And this slide just really just takes you through that journey up to where we are, where we actually announced our full year results yesterday. And I think it's credit to the team that we haven't managed to refine and deal with that Sol despite the global shutdown, and conserve costs and deliver some solid financial results as we reported yesterday. So getting straight on with the job in delivering some technology reporting of Sol, we managed to put the patent filing in to protect the technology in July, and we followed that up with the successful results of two very important studies which proved the technology in that it can do exactly what we said it could do in terms of permeating the skin's barrier to be able to deliver the skin cancer technology to where it needs to be in the active part of the skin. And we managed to prove that actually it can do that very, very safely, and that it is as safe as currently marketed baby sun care products. So we were delighted with both of those studies, and they have obviously given us great news flow, great attention. You can see the graph on the right charts a lot of the share price progress, which has been reflected from the news flow that we've been able to put out. And those studies really did give great commercial value to Sol. And we're delighted to be able to talk more about that later on or earlier on this year with commercial update, discussing that we have concentrated discussions on the back of that technology with two global cosmetics companies, which we're very happy with that progress. We wrapped up the year in December 2020 last year with some fantastic interim results, and it really just showed that we'd conserved costs, we'd given great operational performance. We're very proud of the delivery of return to shareholders, and we also had sort of further 350,000 investment from some subscriptions from the IPO. So we ended up strong operationally and financially at the end of the calendar year last year. And just before the close of the year, we were delighted that we were elevated to the Apex segment of Aquis Exchange, which I'm sure most of you will know, but there were certain criteria that we had to meet there based on sort of share trading and market cap, etc., etc. But A note out to Aquis here. They've been a fantastic exchange for us to be on. They've put lots and lots of incentives, initiatives, lots of investments, and they've made it a very good platform for growth companies, and they've been incredibly supportive of our journey. We couldn't be happier with them as an exchange, and we're delighted that they've really supported our success and our growth at every stage. So coming back into this year, February 2021, we put out the commercial update, which, as I said, announced that we were moving on with our commercial discussions and that we had concentrated those efforts on 2 global cosmetics companies. We followed that up with a placing, which was, we were delighted to have fantastic institutional appetite for more fundraising back in March. And we had a very successful oversubscribed placing. We raised almost as much as we did at the float, actually, 1.14 million. And that's put some valuable investment into the company at a time where, given the global pandemic we've all been through in the last year, we've actually got the funds there to complete our SOL discussions with plenty of comfort from a financial backing point of view. And we're very much looking forward to the next stage of that journey. That last point on the slide just shows that we put our results out, which was yesterday, actually, and reported our report and accounts and notice of AGM to shareholders this morning. So we've had a fantastic journey since flotation. We've delivered a lot of operational success. We've got some good financial backing. We have some very supportive shareholders, lots of new investment recently, and we've delivered some good returns. And I think, we're pleased that we've done exactly what we hoped to do at Float and what we promised to do back in February 2020.
So yes, well, good evening, everybody. And as Tim mentioned, this is our pipeline, and every good biotech company clearly needs a pipeline. But I think the way we look at our products is slightly different. We don't try and put our products into various phases of their development cycle. We really look at them as independent projects and really try and ask the question, how much do we need and what do we need to do to these before we can get them in the hands of a potential licensee? So that's all of the acquire, prepare and commercialize mantra that Tim talked about earlier. And we do have quite a diverse pipeline, but it's thematic. They're all linked. Within every one of these programs, there's something very specific about how we actually take the drug to the site where it's needed, be that a tumor site or skin in the case of SOL, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail in a minute, and actually switch it on so its activity becomes active and does its job, kill the tumor or protect the body from whatever it is that we're trying to do. So it is a little bit thematic, and it is very specialized in that sense. So we do try and differentiate ourselves from the rest of the sort of the biotech industry that are doing various things within this space. But I think we really should be talking about SOL at the moment, because this is our focus, the focus of the company for the last year or so. And SOL is all about the skin cancer challenge. Now, I think everybody is very much aware of the effects of UV radiation, so wandering out into the sunshine and what that can do to your skin, and particularly when we talk about skin cancers and we think about words like melanoma, and everybody gets kind of scared because in the news, we see there is a precipitous rise in the rates of these cancers, and they are terrifying in the fact that they can be very serious and are certainly life-threatening. And when you do actually dig down into the data, you can see that melanoma itself has increased by 45% in the last 10 years, which compared with other cancers, is a scary rise. Let's be honest. It's 5th most common cancer in young adults. And I think this is where the data really does get interesting. As a dermatologist would say that skin cancer really is a cancer that we see predominantly in the old age, because the more you obviously walk around on this earth, the more you're exposed to the sun, the more likely you are to get a skin cancer. But actually now we're seeing a significant rise, and we're talking about 70% in a younger generation, in that 25 to 49-year-olds, 70% rise in skin cancers. And this is very scary. And this is, young affluent people who can afford clearly to go abroad from the UK, obviously, and get into the sun and enjoy the holidays or what have you. And obviously, we're seeing this rise in skin cancers hitting this group, and it is quite scary. So from this, the whole market of sun care products has really bloomed. We've always had sun creams, we're always very aware of them, but that market size has really gone up alongside, of course, all of these problems and the general education of what sun does to your skin. And we're talking about around about a 14 billion by 2024 market. So it is massive, particularly for a small company like us entering into this marketplace. And we can see that. We can see that in everyday life. You go into Boots or into whatever your local chemist is, and you see this huge range, this plethora actually of various sun creams and lotions and potions. And the truth is, and I think the education is getting out there now, that sun creams are great at preventing your skin from burning, but there's no really good evidence, and there's no guarantee that those sun creams will actually prevent a tumor forming from the exposure to the UV radiation of the sun. And that's what we're interested in. We're interested in defending our skin from that UV radiation and preventing the onset of these cancers. Now, we're getting a little bit technical here. Some of these cancers actually start, and the first sign actually of damaged skin through sun exposure is what we call a solar or an actinic keratosis. It's a small red spot on the skin that can eventually turn into a tumor, but it's a good indication in general that the skin is being ablated by the sun. Now, these can actually be treated by a specific chemical that we've known about for a long time. I'm not going to name what it is because unfortunately it is subject to that patent, and the patent is still in its priority year. So forgive me for not actually naming it yet. Come back in about 12 months' time, we'll have a different chat. But through phase 3 trials, we actually know that this can firstly treat the solar keratoses and actually then prevent the formation of cancers that are induced from UV exposure or sun exposure. So the big question, of course, is why aren't we using that already? And the answer to that is that the phase 3 trial that was performed, and there were a number of them actually, were all oral dosing. So you had to eat this stuff for it to afford the protection to your skin. And sadly, you had to eat lots of it over a long period of time to actually get this protection and this pharmacological result, which is just impractical. So, of course, the obvious thing to do, clearly, is to put it into a formulation that you can rub on your skin. So we get a cream, just like a sun cream. Unfortunately, the nature of the chemistry has been really, really tricky. It's just such a difficult model to put into a formulation that will push it, as Suzanne said earlier, into the skin to the right place to do the job in an intact form. It's just one of those pieces of chemistry that's really hard to work with. Now, luckily, in my previous life, I used to work in a dermatology company, and I had the great fortune to work with some of the world's best topical formulators, one of whom gave me a call a couple of years ago and said, Simon, I've got something really interesting there in oncology. I think I've solved this particular problem that we're talking about today. And indeed, along came Sol, a formulation that takes this active ingredient and pushes it into the skin at the right place to firstly treat actinic keratoses and thereby prevent the onset of other skin cancers. Really very exciting, and clearly something that we all want to see, and dermatologists around the world have been looking for a very long time. And of course, now suddenly we have a cream formulation. It's something that people already understand. When we go outside, we put on our sun cream. So slapping something on your skin is not a problem. You can do it in situ, you can do it before, you can do it after. It's much easier than learning how to take pills every day for potentially going out into the sunshine at some point in your life. And people often don't like taking pills and all of these sorts of things. There's lots of advantages of the cream, including biologically. Of course, you'll miss liver metabolism and diluting the effects through actually having to go all the way through your body to get out to the skin in the first place. You're actually putting it on the point where you really absolutely need it. So again, very excited by that. And over the last year, 6 to 8 months, again, as Suzanne said, we announced some results, some trial results of this particular formulation. And we had to obviously prove it worked and also prove it was safe. And in both of those studies, actually, the results exceeded our expectations, and they were just fantastic studies. The permeation results, in other words, how much of this stuff we can get actually through the skin to where it was needed, was above and beyond what was needed to get bioequivalence, and that's a bit of an industry word, bioequivalence. It means basically we can deliver as much through the skin as we saw in those clinical trials from people taking them already. So we can get enough into the skin to do the job, in fact, more than enough. And indeed, above and beyond that, it beat a lot of competitive products that, albeit are not used for this particular problem, shall we say, but they do contain this active, and they couldn't get it through the skin. So that was great news for us. And in terms of safety, clearly you've got to make sure your formulation is safe. It's the #1 priority. And as Suzanne again alluded to, in our safety studies, we actually were extremely safe. There was no irritancy perceived, shown, seen, and it was ranked as safe, if you like, as some baby products that are out there on the market already. So great, good news for both efficacy and for safety. And then, of course, we now move on. We have a product, we have a working prototype, we have some technology. It's clearly important to get it out to the market as fast as possible. And so we step into the world of licensing. And Tim, I think probably I'll hand this back to you.
Okay, thank you, Simon. So this is the slide really that everybody wants to listen to when we talk about Incanthera and what our next steps are, because Sol very much is going to be our route into revenue generation and profitability. And so publicly we've said that we have already introduced Sol to a number of potential licensees, and we've decided to concentrate on 2 global companies in the cosmetics area, and for obvious reasons we can't say who those are, but I think I can say that if we mentioned either name to you, you would all know them without even thinking about it. So that's really exciting for us, and those discussions are progressing. And in our results this week, we did say that we'd update the market as and when we could with any progress. But I think the most important thing is for me to put this in context from a financial and market perspective for everybody. What we're talking about here is a global business in terms of skincare products, and specifically in skincare directed to sun exposure. And we would fully expect a product like Sol to perhaps sit within a branding or a range of products which one of these companies would probably already selling. And they would be attracted to Sol because they would get, firstly, the exclusivity of Sol, but it would give them that edge over their competitors. So if you imagine going into the Boots or any pharmacy, as Simon mentioned previously, and you've got a range of options on the shelf, and they're all much of a muchness, then you're probably going to go for the color you like or the brand you like. But if somebody has this Sol ingredient within it, and they can say, look, it has this ability to prevent solar keratosis or going into melanoma and skin cancer, then you can see that there is a very big edge there. And if I were to say that a product like Sol could easily sell $100 million per year, and that is very much a conservative estimate. We don't want to speculate too much on what our deal terms would be, but again, in this industry for this type of product, we're probably looking at double-digit royalty rates. So let's keep the numbers simple. 100 million sales at 10% means 10 million income to us per year. We're currently a company that is on the Aquis market at 10 million market capitalization. So it doesn't take a wizard to work out the PE ratios and everything else on a 10 million income. So that is very much the attraction of investors that have come into Incanthera recently. They can see within a relatively short period of time, there's going to be an enormous value inflection point when we get this Sol moved on. And the indications that we've given to the market so far is that we are looking to complete a deal on Sol within this calendar year. That's about all we can say at the moment. But one of our major shareholders said to us the other day, you all seem to have smiles on your faces, so something must be going right, I guess. So that's a pretty good observation. And then backing up from Sol, we've clearly got the rest of the portfolio, which we will follow on once we've got Sol moved on, and we've got lots of other ideas to bring other products into the portfolio, which addresses some unmet needs. So just, I think, one wrap-up slide, Simon, I think, isn't it? Oh, no, sorry, beg your pardon. We have just published our results, so a quick read through these. As you can imagine, the numbers themselves are not that important. I think the important messages are that we're absolutely got a tight cost control. We raised 1.14 million recently, which gives us a cash runway to the second half of 2022, more than enough runway in order for us to do this deal. But more importantly, it sends a real positive message out and strong message out to anybody that we might be negotiating with across the table. Small Alazine, versus big global company. They need to know the message that we're strong financially, we've got the support of our shareholders, and they come to the table sensibly and do a sensible deal with us. And Suzanne mentioned earlier about the promotion to the apex sector on Aquis, which we were delighted to be asked by the market to be into the first Apex market. I think we're one of 20 out of I think there's about 20 in the Apex sector out of 100 approximately on the market, although there seems to be new entrants to that market every day. So, good shout out to Aquis here. I think they're doing a fantastic job. But what it's meant for us being on the Apex sector is a narrowing of the spreads. We've seen a noticeable increase in liquidity. So for any of you that are concerned at all about potential lack of liquidity in an Aquis stock, I would urge you to have a look. And obviously we're all aware that AJ Bell platform was recently connected through to the Aquis market. So there's no problem, I understand now, for investors on AJ Bell to invest in Aquis. And there's some really good companies, apart from ourselves, of course, on the market. So that's the message really. We're financially strong, great support from our shareholders. We're looking forward to doing a deal sometime later this year, which, as I say, will be a massive value inflection point. So this is the last slide before we go to Q&A. Just summarizing really what we've all said. Absolute focus on progressing and completing those commercial discussions with Sol. Differential business model in lots of ways, as we explained earlier on. The importance of our type of company is to have that spread across a multi-product portfolio, because we are in the risk business at the end of the day. Although I think we've minimized, if not eliminated, the development risk on Sol already, so that's in a really good position. But when we come on to do further follow-on products, there is risk in there, and so to have a portfolio is very important. And for what it's worth, we are EISB CT qualified, but that's only obviously applicable if we're raising new money.
Obviously, you've covered why you've joined the Aquis Exchange, which is all very exciting. As we said earlier, AJ Bell customers can access via the platform and trade shares on the Aquis Exchange via their login in details. So, is the company unique, or are you competing with products with other similar companies? Someone's mentioned Innovaderma.
Okay. I'm going to let Simon perhaps speak specifically if you know that particular company or technology, Simon. But I think it's worth saying on a general level that companies like ours are unique in the sense that we have intellectual property which is unique to us. We have patents which protect our products, and that is what we are. We are an IP patent business. That's where our value is, and then we extract that value by developing the products and getting them commercialized. And if we take Sol, for example, absolutely that's unique. I think we have used that word and got it verified by our advisors in the past, and that's why it's a big interest to potential partners. I have to. I mean, Simon, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with the company that Chris has mentioned?
Yeah, and that's not that there are other companies too, but the companies actually fall into two categories. They're either cosmetic focused or they're pharmaceutically focused. And that those two routes to the marketplace are very different, and kind of cluttered, in both marketplaces. And we straddle the line between the two. So we use this kind of fateful word cosmeceutical, which doesn't really mean very much, but it's kind of a bit of each. And in a sense, we can choose which market angle we want to drive through and drive towards, or keep them both, frankly. And Sol is in one of those magic positions where we can bring out a cosmetic application that you would just pick up as a sun cream in your sort of local pharmacy or shop or online or whatever, but also retain its pharmacological activity for a future medicine once we've done the appropriate trials. So in that sense, we do differentiate ourselves from these types of companies.
Okay. Someone's mentioned you got some institutions on board. Going forward, are you looking to get more of the same, or are the retail going to get an opportunity to come in and pick up on what's on offer?
I think, Suzanne, can you pick that one up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that we've always said that we have a very sort of open communications policy, and we're very, very aware, specifically with the QCA code, etc., that we want to encourage retail investment and retail audience. I think everything that we're doing and everything that Aquis is doing as well very much encourages that. Certainly with the new market maker incentives and various broker initiatives that are on the exchange. I think we feel that there's very much a big opportunity to address the retail audience, and we're very much encouraging that.
Excellent. You mentioned earlier on in your presentation about partnership. How high is that on the agenda? I mean, by what you've been saying and what you've been offering as a company, do you really need a strong partnership, or are you able to stay with what you've currently got and throw your own business going forward?
I think to answer that, Chris, we need to go back to the business model, and the business model is very much that differentiating ourselves from other similar companies. We're looking to build a portfolio of revenue-generating products and through licenses and commercial deals. We're not building a portfolio of clinical development programs that stay in the company. So in order to achieve that, we need partnerships. Now, you can see, anybody can see quite clearly from what we presented this evening, that we don't have the infrastructure to do lots of sales and marketing and getting out there to the wider audience, especially in the pharmaceutical side. Although for Sol, we've talked about a slightly different route to market, which is a lot quicker and less onerous, regulatory wise. So absolutely, we need commercial partners. We have one already for one of the products. We're actively looking for one for Sol at the moment, as we've been very specific about this evening. And as we bring other products through the portfolio, again, we will be looking for partners in one way or the other. And all those partnerships will be different for lots of different reasons, depending on the product and the profile, the market, etc. But yes, our business model is very much built upon partnerships.